everybody, we are back in San Diego for another one of our Comic-Con prep videos. This is our annual Outside the Convention Center video. We know it's a tradition for a lot of people. It's one of the things I think we've heard most in the last few years at Comic-Con is people say, oh, it's a tradition, even if we already know all this stuff. It's just kind of the way we get ready for the season, and we appreciate that. We also know that a lot of people that watch these videos are brand new to the con, so we try to walk the line in there. That said, veterans out there, things that we miss, go ahead and throw it in the comments and help those people out so that they can have the best experience possible. So as we are back here, this video again is going to be things outside the convention center. We'll have a separate video that goes inside the convention center and talks about what escalator to use and things of that nature. But this one we're going to talk about off-site activations, food, just some strategies and things like that all the way around. So 2023, it's going to be another strange year. We said that a year ago when we came back. We'll also say the same thing we said last year, which is so excited to be back. It's great to have all of those things with us again, all those favorite, or I shouldn't say all of them, because obviously it's a strange year, but having so many different properties, having so many different things coming together to celebrate here in San Diego. But it is going to be a little bit of a strange year. So the streamers have struggled economically. A lot of companies have struggled economically. We've got strikes going on. There's a lot of crazy things. And so we'll do the best we can as we're shooting this to kind of extrapolate some of these things, but also there's going to be a lot of things in flux in the weeks to come, as there always are, but I think even maybe a little bit more so this year. So make sure to follow along with us online, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all of that, and of course San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog for updates in real time throughout this whole process as we get ready for the season. So that being said, also we'll only be able to talk about the offsites that we know that are occurring right now, that have been announced. So we'll talk about those, but we'll also talk about some guesses of things that may be coming, or just some tips about things that usually fit into some of these certain spots there. Now, as we do talk about offsites as a general rule, networking is going to be a critical thing. It really is critical with all things Comic-Con. We've been preaching that for many years now, is having friends, having groups, having family, whatever, networking together, having multiple people watch Twitter feeds. We know Twitter is not everybody's favorite app these days, but that said, it is where information moves the fastest, and it's the place where so much of the Comic-Con news breaks, and it's there and then it's gone. So make sure to keep an eye out for those things. This morning, Adult Swim was announced. There was an article posted by the blog, notifications on, it's up, and already within minutes, like, it's sold out. It's just gone out of spots. And so it's really important to have that team and to network with those things. Now, as we talk about this area here, Harbor Drive is once again going to be closed off for badged attendees during those Comic-Con hours, so you can expect that kind of campus feel there. Although that being said, the campus spreads much larger than the official Comic-Con International footprint, and we'll be talking about that in this video, as well as some of the separate videos we'll be doing. We'll talk about like our 5th Street kind of exploration of all the shops, where we go more in depth with all of those things. So that said, let's move over to where normally the Petco Interactive Zone is and talk a little bit about that and just some things more about offsites in general. All right, we moved our way down the Harbor Pedestrian Bridge here to overlook the Petco parking lot over here that is most commonly known to Comic-Con attendees as the Petco Interactive Zone. I think that's something that's a lot of us kind of keep, even when they've had little name changes. For a lot of us, it holds. Now, we do know it's coming back simply because the Hello Kitty truck has announced that that's going to be their location. So although there's not been any official announcements outside of that by Petco or any other brands, we know Hello Kitty said they're going to be in that spot, so we can trust that it's going to be there. But regardless of that, as we talk about like this location and just some of these offsites in general, it's important to kind of think strategy-wise. Offsites require just as much strategy as big panels, big exclusives, any of those things, and sometimes more. Offsites traditionally get very busy, and depending on their location can get particularly inundated, even with more so locals as you get to like Saturday and Sunday when a lot of people come down. So for us, a lot of times we try to target offsites as much as possible on Thursdays and Fridays. Now the challenge Thursdays a lot of times is sometimes they're either not running or they're still being set up. But take note of all these things. Make sure to know the hours of the offsites. I know one thing we always ask for at Comic-Con from the brands that are coming out here to do offsites is more after hours stuff, because so many of the offsites shut off right as the convention floor closes. So hopefully we'll see more of that here in 2023. But regardless of that, we want to make sure to prep and just know those things. Now, this location particularly, like the 5th Street area, like the Hilton gas lamp park area over there, these are spots that are so busy, just generally speaking, because you have everybody that works around here, you have all the Comic-Con attendees, you have all the hotel guests, you have the hotel employees. I mean, just so many people are making foot traffic. So sometimes you think about more of the offsites that are further out. So for example, this year 6th Street and E, which is a bit of a walk, that's where Cozy TV is doing the lunchbox, the Lanford lunchbox, which ties into Roseanne's 30th anniversary. Not an offsite we saw, but one to use as an example right here, because it is so far down there that it could work as a good spot if you're looking to kind of trade off a walk for a shorter line. Obviously no guarantees there, but we do find that a lot of times the further we get away from this immediate area, the lesser the waits are. Again, it can vary, but something to kind of keep in mind there. Again, networking is important. Social media is so important. We wouldn't make the walk out to some of these offsites if we're kind of trying to plan on the run there unless we know what the lines look like. And so that's where, again, Twitter can be your friend of kind of monitoring those things and seeing how busy some of these locations are. The other thing is, remember the offsite time just requirements is these offsites, even if you have a timed reservation, oftentimes there's still going to be a queue that goes along with it. There's still going to be a processing of people. There's still going to be the actual experience, the walk there and back. And so it's crazy how much of a time suck the offsites can become. That said, they're some of our most memorable and fun experiences at Comic-Con, so we highly recommend getting involved and trying out some of them because there's so many great memories. I know we've really tried the last few years to do more offsites, and I'm so glad we have because there's so many standout memories, but do know there's a lot of time required with them. So if you have a 1 p.m. reservation for something and you think, okay, well, I'll run over there at 12:30, get there, get out 1:30. If you're one of the newer people to the con, you will be maybe surprised that could end up being very well a 3 or 4 hour time commitment there. And I know a lot of veterans know exactly what we mean with that. Also, remember to keep an eye out for that nighttime offerings if they are. I think things that are night have a lot of extra added value to them because the floor is closed and you're not losing any time from there. And remember, always check if the badge gives you any extra advantage. Some offsites will give preference to badge holders. It's not anything consistent necessarily. It's not anything guaranteed, but it's worth checking out when you go to any of these places to see if there's that, or even if there's like you're a rewards member, they might give an advantage, or you might get points for a credit card or things like that. It's worth checking those things out. So with that said, now we're going to make our way over to 5th Street and talk a little bit more about the changes that have happened kind of to that part of San Diego since our last Comic-Con. All right, we've made our way over here near 5th Street, right behind the Hilton gas line, to talk a little bit about just some of the changes in the 5th Street area. Now, that being said, we have a whole separate full live video where it's like, I don't know, almost 30 minutes of just walking around the area and showing some of the food and drink offerings. So check that out if you want to get really detailed. But that said, we want to alert people to a couple things. One, the no vending zone is in effect now. So we'll see how much it's enforced, but basically there's signage up everywhere not to allow street vendors to serve food anymore. So that could impact, we know some people that's a favorite kind of stopping place for food. The other thing is that the Promenade project is underway, which means that they are allowing in a lot of this outdoor seating area to continue further on, and actually they're kind of leaning into it. So from L, which is up by the convention center almost there near Harbor, the street kind of facing Hard Rock there, all the way to Broadway is going to be built into like 8 different zones. They're getting rid of curbs, they're expanding eating opportunities and all sorts of things. So lots of changes in the future here for this part of San Diego. So while it's great that we have expanded eating options here with a lot of places having added additional seating outside, make sure to check times with any of your favorite places, because one thing I know we experienced and a lot of Comic-Con attendees experienced in 2022 was a lot of the restaurants with their staffing being tight with worker shortages closing earlier than normal. So even though it was Comic-Con week, a lot of places were closing down on the earlier side. Also, always a good recommendation to book those reservations if there's certain spots you want to be. It's nice to have a guaranteed meal if you can and know that that's locked in place there. In addition to our 5th Street video that I said you can find on our YouTube channel, you can also find on the playlist for Comic-Con this year one that's just all about quick eats in the area. So if you're looking for those faster dining options, we explore this whole area and offer some suggestions on that too. All right, so we've made our way over here. We're across from Hall B of the Convention Center. We're going to talk more about A, B, C, D, E, all the way down to H in a separate video coming soon. But what we want to talk about right now is the Marriott over here off the left side for me. The Marriott is really an extension of that Comic-Con convention experience so often in the past. Now, as we're recording this, the only things that have been announced for the Marriott this year are the Film Festival, the Gaming Connection, and the Comic Creator Connection. But oftentimes it's been home to places, things like the Pinball Lounge, to the Fulfillment Room, Esports Lounge, etc. So keep an eye out for more information on that. But the Marriott very much is part of that whole convention experience and has been a big part of the partnership of kind of turning this Comic-Con campus into what it is today. A couple other things we want to know. We've got the trolley coming up behind us here with Futurama. if you're coming on the trolley, we find that it is better to get off. If you're coming, let's say, from Hotel Circle, Mission Valley, places like that, it'll say Convention Center stop there, but actually the Gaslamp Quarter stop, we find a much more convenient access point there. So it's your call, but Convention Center ironically feels like it doesn't get you quite as much into the Convention Center as Gaslamp does. I did want to plug First and Market. Over there you find the Ralphs. We feature that prominently in our Quick Eats video, so you can check that out if you want to see more of the types of food they have there, but that's something we've always talked about in this video. But this year, doing a separate Quick Eats video, we go into a little bit more detail there. And one last thing for this little piece of the segment is parking. You want to make sure if you are driving in that you've got some sort of parking secured, so you're not at the mercy of what parking will be down here, which can be very, very expensive. I mean, it can be expensive no matter what, but particularly expensive if you don't have pre-booked parking. So if you are not part of the ACE lottery, then you're going to be looking at ACE's website directly, see if you can find anything there. There's usually always parking left there. July 10th, I believe, is the open sale if you've not been part of the pre-sale portion of it via their lottery system there. Whatever it is, just make sure you have a plan for parking. We know a lot of people who are first timers that drive down, and that's one of the things that gets them right. It got us all the way back in 2005. We came down without parking, and it was a much easier time at Comic-Con, but we thought, oh, we'll just roll in and park at the convention center. It's like, oops, that's not going to work. So make sure to plan for that as well. All right, our next stop here is the bay behind the convention center here. Absolutely gorgeous, beautiful. Highly recommend just taking a moment to take it in at some point during your Comic-Con trip. It can be difficult with all of the madness going on, but it's just something that always reminds, like, this is why San Diego Comic-Con is like the capital of the world when it comes to all of these conventions and stuff. In part is like everybody wants to come and be in this beautiful place. That said, the bay also is the home to a lot of fun things over the year. A lot of times it's a great place for autograph hunting, as the boats, like an IMDb boat or things like that, empty. A lot of people will be autograph hunting out here. May not be as big a thing this year if we do have a strike, obviously, if talent's not here, but we know it's a big tradition for a lot of people, and it may still be something this year, not sure. We've loved things like Voodoo Ranger with their pirate ship back here is fantastic. We saw the Red Baron Snoopy as like a drone flying around out here. Adult Swim, which we'll talk more about in a second, had their barge back here, so there's a lot of times fun things to see back here as well, just in terms of visuals and things like that. Now over at the Hilton Bayfront, it makes one of the best kind of backdrops to all of San Diego Comic-Con. I know we love doing like our live shows out here with that as a backdrop, because FX normally is doing some sort of a wrap there that always looks crazy and cool. We're hoping FX is right back here with their big exhibition spot. They are one of those kind of cornerstone spots for outside Comic-Con stuff. You know, and one of these years they're going to stop coming and it'll be what it is, and other things will evolve into that spot. There's fun things there before FX, there'll be fun things thereafter, but we do hope they return. One thing to note, if FX does return, it normally takes a long time to get through that line. FX is one of the most popular off-sites, but the nice thing also is usually it's got multiple pieces to it if it kind of mimics what we had like last year. So you got to kind of think you're going to get a big experience, but you may get a really, really big wait along with it. So warning there in terms of time management, all of that. Then over here, wanted to point out, Adult Swim is going to be back in this location here. Last year, there was just a box there. It's like they kept their piece of territory, I guess, and pointed out to kind of the barge and things like that. But it was a real bummer not to have Adult Swim here. Again, they're one of those things that have, to be honest, we don't usually do much with the Adult Swim activation ourselves. Like, we haven't spent a bunch of time doing their offsite, but it's always just part of that Comic-Con campus. And, you know, we go back to that. The WB booth has disappeared over the years, and that was such an iconic part of the Comic-Con floor. Everything at Comic-Con is always there until it's not there, and then obviously we adjust and we move on, and there's other wonderful things. That said, when things return, particularly in a year like this year that's been so kind of up and down with so many changes, big props to whoever it is with Adult Swim that's making it happen, that they're going to get back here and take over a big part of this lawn and give fans some really great experiences there. A couple things on the big picture of Comic-Con. Remember the kind of the dichotomy of these offsites and activations when we think about them. Usually the ones that take the most time are the best experiences, but they take the most time, and so you have to kind of see, is it worth that amount of time? We've known people have waited over 8 hours for like Game of Thrones in years past. Last year, Severance, everybody that did Severance that we know absolutely loved it, but most everybody we've heard of that did it, it took almost their entire day to be able to get through there. So there's kind of that up and down of it. It's rare to have something like Dungeons and Dragons that got a lot of people through last year, or maybe the Orville the year previous, or 2019 I should say, but also we're able to get a lot of people in and have a great experience that had a lot of pieces to it. So, you know, a lot of them you just kind of have to evaluate and see, like, how much time am I willing to put into this? Remember, whatever you do with Comic-Con, whether it's outside or inside, how much work it takes at San Diego Comic-Con. I think that's why we're all so nuts about it and love it so much, is because it's so hard to get here, from getting tickets to getting, you know, parking or airfare, hotel apocalypse, all these different components come into it. There's lotteries, all that, and then you finally get here in beautiful San Diego and you're like, okay, I'm here, the con is here. So make sure to try to appreciate every moment of it. We are really big on taking it in and trying not to let yourself get too run down where you stop enjoying it or having blow-ups with your friends or families. Try to keep it all in, you know, perspective of how hard you worked here to get here, and hopefully you enjoy every morning, every minute of it from morning to night. That's it as we're wrapping up here. If you're part of our Parks and Cons crew on Patreon, we are going to be doing our preview night morning tour this year, so you can find out more about that on our Patreon. If you are interested in our work and just want to help support us, check us out on Patreon there for Parks and Cons. If you're a member, hopefully a bunch of you can join us. We're starting to get those swag bags ready for you, and we're going to take a tour of all this and see what the Comic-Con campus has to offer that preview night morning. Remember, we will be on the ground exhaustively in the weeks ahead and the week of. We'll have about 7 to 8 days straight of like non-stop coverage of everything going on in the Comic-Con campus. So follow us wherever you can find us: Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, of course, TikTok, all of that. And hopefully we'll have some fun content for you. Check out our podcast. You can check out also our playlists from last year, this year. So much Comic-Con content. If you're somebody that's new to it and just want to get a feel for it, you can go down a walk through all of 2022, and there's over 70 videos there to get a really good feel for what San Diego Comic-Con has to offer. For the veterans out there, we'll see you again at Comic-Con. For the new people, we'll see you there for the first time. We hope you all have a great convention. We'll see you in more videos to come, and we'll wrap up here. So until next time, we'll see you in line somewhere.